Welcome to Flekar and Inspire, where the unexpected meets the unforgettable. Here, we bring you powerful stories, raw moments, and the kind of celebrity drama that leaves the world buzzing. Subscribe and stay with us as we peel back the curtains and reveal what really goes down when the lights go up. Today's story, one of the most shocking and tense late-night moments we've ever covered. Brad Pitt, Jimmy Kimmel, a live studio audience, and a night that spiraled out of control faster than anyone expected. Let's rewind to how it all started. It was a Tuesday night at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles. The set of Jimmy Kimmel Live was buzzing, the staff upbeat and ready for what was meant to be a smooth and light-hearted show. Brad Pitt had been confirmed as the headline guest, a major appearance, considering he hadn't done a talk show in nearly a year. Fans lined up outside hours in advance. Inside, producers gave last-minute notes, makeup artists dusted the final touch of powder, and Jimmy prepared his cue cards. Everyone expected a charismatic, fun, maybe even cheeky interview with the A-list actor. But what unfolded was far from that. Brad arrived at the studio wearing a charcoal gray jacket, black jeans, and a quiet, focused demeanor. He nodded to the staff, made brief eye contact, and kept mostly to himself in the green room. It didn't go unnoticed by the crew that something was off. Brad, usually warm and conversational backstage, appeared guarded. 10 minutes before showtime, a minor disagreement occurred off camera. A producer casually asked Brad if he'd be comfortable with a segment involving some reenactment sketches, a part of the show that had become a regular gag. Brad reportedly paused and asked, "Does Jimmy actually want me here for a real talk, or just to clown around?" The producer laughed it off, assuming it was a joke. But Brad wasn't laughing. He went on stage anyway. The band played. The lights came up. The crowd roared. Jimmy greeted the audience with his usual charm and banter, cracking jokes and easing everyone into the night. And then Brad was introduced. Applause echoed across the theater as he stepped out, shaking Jimmy's hand and taking his seat. But even from the first moment, something was off. Brad barely smiled. He crossed his legs, looked out at the audience, and offered only short responses to Jimmy's opening pleasantries. At first, viewers thought it was dry humor. Maybe Brad was doing a bit. Maybe it was just part of the act. But the tension between host and guest kept building. And it wasn't long before Jimmy, known for pushing buttons, decided to poke the bear. "Brad," Jimmy said, flipping a card, "you've had an amazing career, movies, projects, travel, everything. But people want to know, are you finally settling down, or still dodging responsibility?" Brad's smile vanished. He leaned forward and said slowly, "Is that your question? On national television, you want to talk about dodging responsibility?" Jimmy shrugged, trying to pass it off. "It's just a joke. Relax." But Brad didn't relax. "No, I just think it's wild," he said. "You invite me here, then lead with a cheap shot like that. I thought we were going to talk about real things. Art, work, not tabloid punchlines." The audience let out a collective ooh, sensing the shift. Jimmy tried to steer the conversation back. "I mean no offense. Come on, it's late-night TV. We keep it loose." But Brad was already done playing along. "You keep it loose by reducing people to punchlines," he said. "I've seen you do this. You smile in someone's face and mock them in the next segment. That's not loose, that's fake." Silence fell over the audience. Jimmy chuckled awkwardly, still hoping to recover. "Brad, man, are you serious right now?" Brad stood up. "I don't need this," he said. "You asked me here, but clearly, you weren't interested in having a real conversation." Jimmy stayed seated, stunned. "You can finish your monologue with someone else," Brad added. And just like that, Brad walked off the stage, mid-interview, cameras still rolling, audience stunned into silence. The show quickly cut to a commercial break. What happened during those next 5 minutes backstage is still being debated. Sources say Brad headed straight for the exit, refusing to speak to anyone. A production assistant tried to intercept him, asking if he'd reconsider for the second segment, but Brad's answer was short, "Nope." Jimmy returned after the break visibly rattled. He tried to laugh it off with a quick joke about passionate artists, but the energy was broken. The remaining show limped along, with Jimmy doing his best to recover but clearly shaken. What followed was an explosion online. Within hours, clips from the Walkoff were trending across every platform. Headlines like, "Brad vs. Jimmy, what really happened?" And Pitt storms off Kimmel's set, flooded feeds. TikTok users debated the moment, with some siding with Brad for calling out fake TV culture and others accusing him of overreacting. But as the dust began to settle, a new side of the story began to emerge. According to insiders close to Brad, the actor had gone through a particularly draining week, professionally and emotionally. A major project had been delayed due to creative disagreements, and a longtime collaborator had unexpectedly pulled out. On top of that, Brad had reportedly requested the show avoid certain topics, including questions that joked about his past or personal life. Apparently, Jimmy had agreed. But once the cameras rolled, things changed. One anonymous crew member shared, Brad was clear about wanting a real conversation. But Jimmy thrives on flipping moments. It's part of his humor. This time, it just backfired. Meanwhile, people close to Jimmy argue that he had no malicious intent. One executive producer said, "It was just part of the script. Nothing personal. We've had bigger stars get grilled harder and laugh it off. But that's the thing. Maybe it wasn't about laughing it off anymore. Maybe Brad represented something deeper, about celebrity culture, about public vulnerability, and the pressure to always play along." Days later, Brad issued a statement through his publicist. "I went on the show hoping for an honest talk about art, work, and purpose. Unfortunately, it turned into something else. I walked off not because I was angry, but because I chose not to participate in a moment that didn't feel real. I have nothing but respect for the team behind the show and wish them the best." The response was praised for its calm tone, but the message was clear: Brad had drawn a line. Jimmy, for his part, addressed the issue again on his next show. "I've been doing this a long time. And sometimes, even with good intentions, things go sideways. I want to say I respect Brad. He's an incredible artist. I'm sorry if my jokes felt personal. That was never the plan. But the internet doesn't forget. Memes, think pieces, and video reactions continued to spiral. Viewers began re-watching old clips of other tense interviews, questioning just how much of the humor in late-night TV actually masked deeper issues. Suddenly, Brad walking off wasn't just a headline, it was a moment of cultural reflection. In the weeks that followed, conversations around boundaries in interviews took center stage. Several other celebrities spoke up about times they felt ambushed or reduced to punchlines. The entertainment world started questioning the line between entertainment and exploitation. For Brad, it became a turning point. He focused on producing a new project, a docudrama exploring authenticity in modern media. Sources say the experience on Kimmel deeply informed the tone and message of the piece. He remained mostly silent publicly, but those who know him say he's at peace with how he handled it. He didn't blow up. He didn't curse or storm out in anger. He just said no, one close friend remarked. That's power. And Jimmy, he's still doing his show. Still cracking jokes. But many fans say they've noticed a subtle shift. A little more thoughtfulness. A little more restraint. Whether it lasts, time will tell. But the night Brad Pitt got kicked off Jimmy Kimmel Live, that's a moment nobody will forget. Thanks for watching this story from Flekar and Inspire. If you were as surprised as we were, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more raw, real, and riveting stories from the world of entertainment. And tell us in the comments, was Brad right to walk off? Or should he have stayed and spoken his truth? Until next time, remember, sometimes silence says more than a monologue ever could.